My name is Drew Waldron, and I am on with the Chair of Stuckey's, Stephanie Stuckey. Stephanie, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into a whole bunch of questions. We have a lot of things to talk about, but I think one of the most important things I want to ask you is what is it like to reinvent an iconic company that has been in your family for generations? What has your journey been like with Stuckey's?
It's exciting. I think it's a real opportunity and it's something that most family businesses don't ever get the chance to do, and that is revive your brand. My grandfather built something that was so special and such a part of Americana, and anyone who road tripped during a certain era, especially the 60s and 70s and into the early 80s, would remember Stuckey's and stopping and pulling over for a pecan log roll or some kitschy fun souvenir. And then we faded. Suddenly the stores were gone, and my grandfather sold the company. We had decades of outside ownership and, frankly, neglect. And I had the completely unexpected opportunity 4 years ago to buy my family's company back. And frankly, I only got the opportunity because I had the last name Stuckey. Nobody else was looking to buy the company. They couldn't find any other investors. And so they started asking people named Stuckey. And I pooled my life savings, couldn't get a loan for a company that was in debt and that was fading from brand awareness and market share. And I bought what was left of my family's brand, and it's just been a total labor of love. And I wake up honestly every day so excited and so passionate about this incredible gift that I've been given, the chance to revive a bit of Americana. It's been wonderful.
That's unbelievable. A lot of people, when they hear family businesses, everyone just assumes that you inherited from the generation before you,
Yeah.
but you are in such a unique position where you bought back your family business. And now, when you did, what were your plans for reinvention, and how have those been coming along?
I had no plans. So that's where I'm not your typical CEO. And initially I was CEO. My role has recently transitioned to chair, which I am really enjoying this new role because it's more aligned with my skill sets. But when I bought the company, I had never run a business. I had spent my entire career either as a public servant, I was a state representative in Georgia for 14 years, or I was an environmental advocate and I ran an environmental nonprofit, and I also served as head of sustainability for the city of Atlanta. So I really had my career mapped out. I was 53 when I had the chance to bring Stuckey's back in the family, and I didn't know what I was doing. And in many ways, I think that was my superpower, my naivete, because if I'd known what I was doing and I had a lot of business acumen, frankly, I don't think I would have done this. Anyone who looked at the financials and looked at the balance sheet and saw how poorly the company was doing at that point would likely have run away from it. But because I had this emotional connection to the brand and I was doing it out of love for my grandfather and wanting to revive our family's business as well as revive a piece of Americana, I was motivated by something even stronger and greater. That, in an odd way, was my secret power. And then I quickly learned motivation and excitement and passion can only get you so far if you are in the red. And I got a wonderful business partner who does know how to read a financial report, which I now know how to do too. But the two of us aligned and we realized that to bring the company back, we had to pivot. And that's a lot about what I talk about is our strategy became, what can we do really well, make a lot of money at it, and also that we're passionate about. It's the convergence of those three key things. And we realized we can make the most delicious pecan snacks and candies you'll find anywhere, which is what my grandfather did. It's how Stuckey's was founded, as a roadside pecan stand.
That is an unbelievable leap of faith. Now, you mentioned it several times. You take a lot of pride in the fact that you are an American brand, a unique part of Americana. What does that mean to you on a macro level? And what does that mean to you on a local community level?
I absolutely love this country, and there's so much opportunity in our country. And it's been sad to see so many jobs and so much manufacturing go abroad. And at the same time, I'm not anti-global trade. I absolutely believe we're a global economy, and I get that. But I also think there's a strong place where we can still make stuff in this country. And I really value that. Stuckey's was in manufacturing when my grandfather first grew the brand. We had a candy plant. That plant is now sadly shuttered and completely in disrepair. It's in my hometown, and it broke my heart to drive by and not only see the plant, the physical structure gone, but there's jobs and the dreams and the aspirations and the opportunities that we provided back in the day in our hometown of Eastman, Georgia. And all of that was gone. The lifeblood of the community was that candy plant. So I wanted to get some of that back as well. And fortunately, we have. I wish it was still in Eastman, but we were so fortunate to find another manufacturing facility that made pecan snacks and candies not too far from my hometown. It's in Rennes, Georgia. And my grandfather actually did business with the company that we bought. So there's a great synergy and a nice shared history. And so we bought this plant that was for sale, and we had the chance to grow it. And we're in the process actually of doubling our manufacturing capacity. We employ 75 people. We're one of the largest, if not the largest employer, certainly in the city and in the county. And we really not only value being an American brand that makes stuff in this country, but we contribute to the local economy in Rennes, Georgia, and Jefferson County. So a lot of pride there.
I love that impact that you have on the local community level. And one of the most important aspects of that local community level are the families. And you often speak to family owned businesses. And I'm wondering, what is the most important piece of advice that you give to those family owned businesses?
Well, I try to put the family back in family businesses, right? And making sure that you find the right people in the family who want to remain engaged and involved. To me, the most important thing is to have passion, because it is really hard running any business. And it's especially hard if there are family emotional dynamics at play. So to have that passion for being in the business is the most important thing. And I think that that's the piece of advice that I like to impart when I speak to family groups is don't feel like it absolutely has to be the direct descendant grandson, or more and more we're seeing women get involved in family businesses. But think outside the box and be more creative in your definition of family. I've talked to quite a few family groups where they look at in-laws or they look at nephews, cousins. My own experience, I right now am the only Stuckey involved, but I have two nephews who happen to have the last name Stuckey, which is a bonus point, and they're really interested in the business. So I think it's important to be creative and not strictly think it's got to be that direct descendant. And the thing you really look for is passion. And then there's all sorts of other things that obviously we could get into about getting skills and training outside of the business to know that you're not just having the gift of nepotism or being a family member, but that you really have earned it. So there's lots of other things, but to me, that key takeaway is to be passionate.
Absolutely. Be passionate and expand your horizons. And on the subject of family, you have stated before that you follow ideals that were set by your grandfather. A very famous quote of his being, "Every traveler is a friend."
Yeah,
What
we
does
even have that.
Yeah.
We have that in the marquee on our sign outside of our candy plant. Every traveler is a friend. And it was something that my grandfather had framed on his desk, but it wasn't just something that he looked at in print. It was something that he lived his life by and ran his company by. And I think that a great example of that is how Stuckey's was never segregated, even during the Jim Crow era, when many places, especially on the road, it was very hard to travel if you were a person of color, trying to find safe places where you could use the restroom, get some gas, have a meal, and not feel threatened. And so there were generations of African Americans who thankfully knew that Stuckey's was a roadside oasis for them. And I, to this day, will talk to people who will tell me how much that meant to them. And I value that so much. And that's something that I try to take forward with me, is that anyone who comes in contact with our brand, if it's a customer, a vendor, an employee, of course, anyone, they are treated with warmth and respect and value. And that's the reason our company is still around today, despite all the hard times, despite falling out of family hands and going into debt. The fact that we treated people well, that gave us sticking power.
That is an incredible sentiment. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you keep that in your work. But in your work, you've shown multiple ways that you differentiate yourself from traditional business leaders, from your presentation to the way that you value creativity. And I was wondering, in your own opinion, what other major ways do you personally differ from the average business leader?
I think I'm creative, and I am willing to show my passion, and I love inspiring the team. And the most important thing I've done, frankly, is build a team who align with the skill sets that I have and fill my gaps. I have two business partners. One is actively involved in running the company. And I recently handed over the CEO title to him. And he's perfect for that role. He's really good at the day-to-day logistics and management of the team. And you might see my cat here. She's making a cameo appearance on the bottom of the screen. Empowering others, I think, is one of the most important things you can do as a leader, and recognizing your own strengths are and having some humility and saying, you're better at this, you should be doing this. And, I'm really good at doing the outward facing part of running the business. So I do the sales pitches and I'm at trade shows. I do the speeches. I do the press interviews. And that's not to say my business partner isn't involved in some of that, because he's awesome at that as well. But we have our roles to play, and we recognize and appreciate that we each do what we have a passion for and what we're good at.
Absolutely. It seems like you have the team dynamic set and down.
Yeah.
Stephanie, it's been fantastic having this conversation with you. And whenever I end these interviews, I ask the speaker what advice they have for young people entering the workforce in their field. So whether it's from an entrepreneurial mindset or just a general business mindset, what advice do you have for young people right now?
4 words. I had to count in my head first. You are not alone. And that's one of the things I love about a lot of the speaking engagements that I have, is I frequently speak to groups that are associations. There are trade associations or aligned with a specific industry. And every single one of them is passionate about building that next generation, and really deliberate and thoughtful, and making sure that they're bringing in younger people and making sure those young professionals know that there's a whole community that supports them and wants to see them grow. And if you're new in your career, either being an entrepreneur or part of a larger corporation, there are so many people who are out there rooting for you and want to see you succeed, and don't think that you should be doing it alone. And frankly, you can't do it alone. There's a support network there. I like saying the entrepreneurial journey is about being alone together. You often feel isolated. You often feel like you're just so overwhelmed and you don't know how you're going to do it. And the way you do it is you build a team and you surround yourself with good people who share your passion, and together you're going to get there. So you're not alone.
Very well said. You are not alone. That is going to conclude our conversation with Stephanie Stuckey. Stephanie, thank you again for your time. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure, Drew. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Thank you for listening.